If you've always wanted to do a headstand, but you're a little bit nervous about trying it on your own at home, then I've got loads of useful tips for you that are going to help you to build the confidence and the strength that you need to be able to do this posture. So why are headstands so popular when it comes to yoga? Apart from the obvious reason that they look really cool and it can be really empowering to practice this quite advanced movement, yogis have always loved headstands because they actually invert the body's energy flows. So in yogic speak, we say that prana is the life force energy that flows upwards, and apana is kind of like the opposite, which is the downward flow of the vital life force or vital energy. When you invert your body, that means when you go upside down, for example, in headstand, you actually stop the apana from flowing downwards and you actually make it reverse directions. And this is supposed to be really beneficial for yogic meditation practices where we try to move the energy into higher chakras. So you can imagine spinning yourself upside down, your higher chakras are at the bottom, and so gravity is helping to move that energetic flow up towards the higher centers of evolution. In practical terms, what that means is that if you have a Kundalini or chakra meditation practice, which is quite a traditional yogic meditation technique, then practicing inversions regularly can actually help to power mystical or meditative states. Let's get back to the practical tutorial then of how you can actually do a headstand. So the first thing to know is that Sirsasana, headstand, is a little bit of a misnomer because although your head is resting on the mat when you do a headstand, or in the first version that we're going to practice, the head is on the floor, we actually want to take as much weight off the head as you possibly can. We're actually going to hold the weight of the body on the shoulders and the arms, because you can imagine that if you try to hold your body weight on your neck, unless your neck muscles are crazy strong, then it's going to be too much body weight on your neck, and the neck is only designed to hold the weight of your head, so about 10 to 20% of your body's weight. So bearing that in mind, we need to make sure that we have the strength in the shoulders and the arms to be able to hold the body weight up, with the head being on the floor mostly just for balance. The easiest way to train this is to do what's called a dolphin pose or a forearm downward facing dog. So first we'll have a look at the setup with the arms and the hands so that you can get a feel for how you're going to set up your headstand. So come and kneel down on your yoga mat and face towards the top of your mat. And all you're going to do to begin with is hold the arms just above your elbows. So hopefully when you look down, your shoulders and your elbows are roughly lined up. And this is going to be the perfect width for your headstand base. Okay, so holding just above the elbows and then not moving the elbows from that position, we just place them down on the mat. Release the hands out in front. And for this version, we're actually going to clasp the hands together with the palms touching. Just for now, we're going to keep the head completely off the floor. So this is going to really challenge the strength of our shoulders. What we're going to do is tuck the toes under behind you, press down into the mat as if you're trying to push the floor away from you, and then engaging through your lower belly, switching on the bandhas. We're going to tuck the toes and lift the hips up, same time pushing the floor away with the forearms. You can tuck your chin and look back towards your knees. My head is totally off the floor and I'm really strongly pushing down into the forearms. And then drop back down to your knees and just relax for a moment there, just to give you a kind of feel for the pose. The key here is we're trying to build as much strength in the shoulders in this pushing action. It's called protraction of the shoulders. So instead of the shoulders being tucked backwards, we're actually going to reach them away and spread the shoulder blades wide on the back. This is going to be key when we come up to the full version. Let's do that again, but we'll hold for 10 seconds or 10 breaths. Let's do 10 breaths this time. So establish your position, holding the elbows, placing them down and then interlacing the fingers with the palms touching. Tuck your toes and lift your hips up. You could bend the knees here if you need. Look back towards your knees. That's 2 breaths. 3, 4, Take a break on your knees if you need. 5, 6, 7, keep pushing through the floor. 8, 9, and 10. And then gently lower the knees to the mat. And you can send your hips back towards your heels. Just take child's pose with the forehead on the mat and the hands back behind you. Just giving the shoulders and the neck a chance to relax. Okay, and then coming back up. How did that go? If that was feeling really difficult for you, I want you to try and work up to being able to do 10 to 15 breaths before you move on to the next stage, okay? If that felt really easy for you, a way that you could challenge yourself a bit more is to walk the toes closer towards your elbows. Let me show you what that looks like. So instead of maybe being back here, walk your toes in and bring your hips higher up over your shoulders to challenge yourself more. Essentially what you're doing is you're shifting more of your body weight into above your shoulders. So you have to use more strength here and build more strength to hold yourself in that position, which is going to serve you really well when you move on to the next stage. So if that stage was still quite easy for you, then we're going to try coming into the headstand base position. And don't worry, you don't even have to come up into the headstand yet, but we're just going to practice what it feels like to have the body in the correct startup position. Kneeling on your mat, same as before, we're going to hold on to the arms just above the elbows and we're going to keep the same base. Now, the only reason you would take your elbows a little bit wider is if you have particularly broad shoulders. So I'm usually thinking, usually male students who have quite bulky shoulders and strong muscles in the shoulders and upper back. Sometimes they'll need to take their elbows a little bit wider just to accommodate that width of the shoulders. For most of us, this is going to be a really good rough guide. And then this time, we're going to interlace the fingers, but keep the palms open. So before we had them closed like this, now we're going to open them because this is going to cradle the back of our head. So hands on the floor, and then the part of your head that's going to touch the ground is the crown of the head. So it's like the flattest part of your head. And when you place your head down, you'll know that you've got it right because you kind of feel like you have a double chin. So have a look at me before you have a go. And placing the crown of the head down. And here I feel like I've got a little bit of a double chin. And then from here, all we're going to do, keeping the weight off the head. So it's as if we're still doing the version that we just did, where we hold ourselves on the forearms. We want to use the same level of strength and tension in the shoulders, but we just have the head resting on the mat. So without dumping the weight into my head, I'm still pushing through the shoulders. I'm just going to lift my hips up. I'm trying to keep as much weight off the head as I can. And then I'm going to come back down. So all we're doing here is acclimatizing the body to the position and getting used to that feeling of being upside down, placing the head on the floor, but not putting much weight in the head. It's just for balance. Okay, let's have a look at how you would now work up to the next stage. Let's say you're comfortable with doing your dolphin push-up position. You're comfortable in this position with the head on the floor, lifting the hips up and keeping the weight in the forearms and in the shoulders, pushing the floor away. Now we're going to start to walk the feet in. And then we're going to squeeze one knee into the chest, place it back down, squeeze the other knee in, place it back down. And you can repeat this a few times, just squeezing the knee in to begin with and not actually trying to come up into headstand. And again, what all you're doing is trying to imprint the pattern of this posture into your brain and into your visceral memory. For the next phase, we're going to start to shift the body weight up above the shoulders. Okay, so that's going to be the point where you feel like you're able to come up into headstand, is when the hips come pretty much above the shoulders so that your center of gravity is shifting this way, and therefore it becomes easier for you to come up. We're going to stay low, so we're not going to kick up into headstand. We're going to stay low in a ball and try to do everything with control. Let's have a go. So all I'm going to do is, I'm getting used to this idea of squeezing my knee in. Now I'm going to see if I can push, and maybe the other leg lifts off the mat. You can stay low so that you don't feel panicked. And you can see I'm just using that back foot to give myself a very gentle push. I'm still not kicking, I'm not flinging myself up. I'm just giving myself a gentle push, using the strength of my core to stay nice and tight and to stay low. Now the next stage is to bring both knees into the chest. So watch what that looks like. Pushing the floor away. Pushing the floor away. So can you see that I didn't rush to fling my legs up? I'm really comfortable with just staying low and working on finding a nice strength in the core. I like to think of myself as pulling myself into a ball. And that means your center of gravity stays low, and you won't feel so nervous about falling out of the headstand when you're so close to the floor. When you're just starting to try this version, I would really recommend you stop here and work on this for a few weeks until you feel really, really confident that you've got that strength in the core, you've got the strength in the shoulders so that your body weight is not on the head. And only then start to move on to the next stage. Now for this version, when you're at home, you might want to do it next to a wall to begin with, or you might even ask a friend or partner to stand behind you and spot you to kind of stop you from going over all the way. But if you do this slowly enough and you build up through these stages nice and slowly and mindfully, I think you'll find that it's not so scary to lift the legs up. Let's have a look. After your headstand, make sure you keep your head dropped, forehead on the mat. And just as we did before, take the hands back and allow your body to reaccustom to being in this new gravitational direction. Allow the blood flow to slowly shift back before you bring the head back up. If you're working on this stage of headstand, so what I really recommend is that you try to hold it for 5 breaths, but stay connected to that idea of pushing the floor away and try to notice what's happening with your rib cage. So I have to really try to keep my rib cage dropped. And when you do that, it almost feels like you're hunching your back, but you want to be kind of stacked in a straight line with your shoulders and elbows, head and neck, hips and toes all in a nice straight line, because that will be the best point of balance. It will be the least effort for you to hold, And it will also mean that the weight of the body is distributed directly down through all of these strong joints. So it's a much better position for safety as well. You'll know that you're getting the right level of strength in the shoulders if you come out of your headstand and you don't feel like your neck is really stiff. The neck muscles will probably be working, but you don't want to feel like you have to really iron out your neck when you come out of your headstand. That could be a sign that you're putting too much weight on the neck. Let's have a look one more time at slowly coming up into the full version of headstand. What you probably noticed is that I raised one leg at a time, which again just helps me to have a little bit more control over as I shift my center of gravity, and it means that you'll be less likely to fall over. So one more time, setting up in the same way as before. Lifting the hips and then walking the toes as close as you can so that the hips shift over the shoulders. Squeeze one knee in. And then lowering down, you could do both feet at the same time or one leg down first. Keep the forehead on the mat, take your hands back. And relax. Okay everyone, I hope these tips are going to help you to build up your headstand practice safely and gradually over time. If you have any questions at all, just leave them in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed the tutorial and you found it helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, to like. And then if you subscribe to my channel and click the bell, then you'll get notified every time I post a new video. As always, any requests or suggestions for videos or content that you'd like to see are most welcome, so please do get in touch. Either leave me a comment below or you could send me a message on Instagram or via email. I love to hear from you, and thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.